So the Quran states in the end of chapter 59, هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. So let me read the translation from because I don't want to get this wrong, right? These two verses I think are probably the two best verses that answer your question in the Quran. Allah is He. I'm going to get something maybe a bit better. Translation. All right. He is Allah, that there is no God worthy of worship except for Him, the King, the Holy, the one free from all defects, the giver of security, the watcher over His creatures, the mighty, the compeller, the supreme. Glory be to Him. Glory be to God. High is He above all that they associate as partners with Him. He is Allah, the creator, the inventor of all things, the bestower of forms. To Him belong the best names. All that is in the heavens and the earth glorify Him, and He is the Almighty, the All-Wise.
But I think the Quran is saying something very unique here. Whatever you love in the dunya, whatever you love in this world, if you make it the focal point of your life, I don't care what it is. If you love money and you make money the focal point, eventually you're separated from money. If you're married, your wife, and you have this wonderful relationship, and that's the focal point of your wife, you'll one day die. She'll one day get a disease. There's going to be a separation sooner or later. The world, anything you love in this world will eventually let you down. Look at the attributes God is explaining to you. He's one. He gives the best forms. He's eternal. You can rely on God no matter what. All this comes from the number one spot in your life. Everybody has a slot where the number one. This is number one in my life. If you put anything other than God there, it's going to be to your detriment. You're going to have a collapse. You cannot base your life on something that is limited, shaky, temporary, because you're always going to have this inevitable downfall. Imagine you build a building and the first foundational block is something pivotal or something that's going to decay, something that's temporary. You build this beautiful edifice, you build this beautiful building, and all of a sudden, one little crack, everything comes crumbling down. God is telling you, look, I'm perfect. I'm worthy of your worship. I'm worthy of being number one. What else is there? There's no competition. Don't take anything in this world. Don't partner it with me. People love war. They worship the god of war. They took war and God, and they mixed that idea together, and they made a partner with God. That's why we say in Judaism and Islam, to take a human being and say, I'm God. You're taking yourself a height of arrogance. From our perspective, it's the height of arrogance. The Japanese, they draw Jesus as Japanese. The Scandinavians, they draw him blonde hair, blue-eyed. You're mixing the most perfect, most important thing with something of the dunya. At least this is how we see it. Don't take anything other than God as number one in your life. It won't matter to you after. Your car breaks down, it doesn't matter. Number one is still there. Your wife leaves you, it doesn't matter. Number one is still there. As long as number one is there, everything else will fall in line. You can never hit me at the core. I'm unbeatable to you. I'm invincible to you. Tomorrow the doctor diagnoses me with cancer. I wasn't in love with the body anyway. The body wasn't number one. Some people, especially nowadays with social media, their body's everything. Yeah. They won't eat a morsel of fat. They're doing 100 million sit-ups. Why? Because they're living so much through the body. But guess what? It's a never-ending battle. You're trying to bail water out of the ship, but the ship is sinking. And and I know. It's a matter of time before the ship sinks. What's going to happen when you've passed your prime and your body starts to wrinkle and whatnot? You're gonna start to have a psychological collapse.
Yeah.
The number one thing in your life should never be anything other than God. This is what the Quran is telling you. Like, and it's for your benefit. Allah doesn't need. God says in the Quran, Allah, it says He doesn't need our worship. He doesn't need us. Like, God is not begging you for worship here. If you want to be the most powerful, most successful human being, you should genuinely speaking, not for that practical reason, put God first. Once you put God first, your problems will become secondary. All your problems that you think are so important will become secondary. Like, there's a great hadith which I really love, and it's the Prophet. He tells the kids, he tells them to chase the sun, like run towards the sun, and they run. Excuse me. He tells them to chase their shadows first. They chase their shadows, they can't catch it. They come back and we couldn't catch our shadow. He says, now run towards the sun. When they run towards the sun, the shadow is chasing them. Meaning when you run towards the sun, you're running towards God. The dunya chases you now. You're not chasing the dunya. The dunya you don't have enough time. The dunya always wants your attention now. Why? It's not number one. This is what the central theme of Islam is. You put God first. Your problems are going to take a back seat. This is the story of Abraham. Why is Abraham willing to sacrifice his son for God? Because God is number one. The son is secondary. So I think this would have been a very powerful element of the Quran to highlight to Jordan Peterson, because I think he could see a lot of value in this. There's a lot of value in this idea in the Quran. It's a very powerful idea in the Quran, because if you look at Muslims, like mentally speaking, Muslims are very strong, very, very strong. It's I would say their strongest quality. The Muslims as a whole, they're incredibly mentally strong. It's very hard to make them, for us, like, I don't know, like certain problems that are common in other cultures, to us, they're almost non-existent, and I don't want to criticize anybody, but it has to do with that. You're taught from a young age to put God as number one, and God is the firmest handhold, and God will never let you down, and this relationship will never break unless you do something. Unless you break it. God is always there. He's always forgiving you. When you make a mistake, He's always there. It's this perfect relationship that only you can mess up. It's never going to betray you, this relationship. And this is a very powerful component in Islam. Extremely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.